Nate made landfall Saturday night at the mouth of the Mississippi River.
This is Water Street in downtown Mobile.
This is the worst hurricane that has impacted Mississippi since Hurricane Katrina.
Breaking tonight, a note found in the hotel room of Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock.
It was a mathematical calculation so the killer could murder as many people as possible.
The president tweeted there's only one thing that's going to work with North Korea.
This should have been handled 25 years ago. Should have been handled 10 years ago. I was handed a mess.
If we could make a deal, at least on a temporary basis, because Obamacare is exploding. It's gone.
I'm thrilled y'all are here, and just know that we love you. Let's go live. Helping vets transition from military life to civilian life is going to be a huge contribution to the country.
8th inning home runs lift the Washington Nationals, my team, over the Chicago Cubs in a dramatic fashion.
Fan. Grew up in New York, but I live in D.C. now, so my son and I go to all these Nats games. We're driving together here, he's 16, to New York last night, and the Nats can't get a hit. They can't buy a hit. And I wonder, Dean, if you ever do this with your son. And so he loves Chick-fil-A. So he's like, can we stop somewhere? So he finds something on his iPhone. We drive like 10 miles off out of the route just to go to Chick-fil-A.
But
as soon as we sit down at Chick-fil-A,
boom,
the Nats start crawling and start hitting homers.
So you stay.
We stayed at Chick-fil-A. They're like closing the lights. And I'm thinking now, every time the Nats play now, or maybe the Yankees, my original, we're going to go Chick-fil-A. Because that's the way you do sports. It's like there's all of these superstitions. And once you change the juju there, you got to go.
Truth of the matter is, you're absolutely right. And that's how it has to go on every single time. Princeton, I was at the Princeton football game, Princeton-Georgetown. They were losing 10-0 in the middle of the first quarter. I refused to go down to the other side. I changed our position. Princeton won 40-30.
See?
Way to go, Tigers.
Got to do that every time.
I stayed in the same spot.
That is the luck. Yeah.
It's true.
What are you going to do on Sunday, though? Chick-fil-A's closed.
I know.
You have to go to McDonald's or something.
No, the Nats are not playing till Monday.
They won't play on Sunday anymore. And they're your team.
Sunday anymore.
They're your team.
You love the Nats.
Yeah. I love the Nationals, absolutely. Well, good morning to all of you. It's so great to have Dean Kane here, and we always love Ed Henry.
It's not so great to have me.
It's always
okay. Great to have Dean.
It's great to have Superman
pretty
here.
Pretty good to have Ed Henry.
You're okay.
But thank you all for joining us this morning. We do want to get straight to a Fox News alert, and Nate has now been downgraded to a tropical storm, but not before making landfall twice as a Category 1 hurricane overnight.
The Mississippi coast battling powerful storm surge this hour, as well as very dangerous flooding.
The effects are also being felt in Alabama, and that's where we find our own Rick Leventhal, who's live in Mobile. Rick, how you doing out there?
Good morning, Dean and Abby. We're good. The rain stopped for the most part, and the water's starting to recede. You know, authorities here in Alabama were really worried yesterday as this storm approached with potential Cat 2 winds and heavy rains and a significant storm surge. They did get water, but not nearly as much. And as I mentioned, it is starting to recede here on Water Street in front of the convention center. This section of road is pretty impassable, although we've seen some high water vehicles and trucks come through. I want to show you a guy that we were showing you earlier. Swing around this way, Stephen. The guy in that white car there who was stalled out in the water pushed it back to dry land, and he's waiting for his car to dry out so he can get out of here. You see the overpass there, the entrance ramp to I-10. Very quiet here on a Sunday morning. Not a lot of traffic. People just waking up now. Now that the sun is coming up, they can do the damage assessment. Of course, this storm actually wound up hitting in Mississippi overnight, just after midnight. It's a Cat 1 with 85-mile-an-hour winds. Slammed into Biloxi, brought high waters onto Highway 90 and into the lobbies and parking garages of hotels and casinos along the beach there. And there were some water spouts sighted as well. But basically, it was, as far as we know, just water issues. No reports of significant property damage in Mississippi or anywhere else along the Gulf Coast so far. There are a lot of people without power, though, tens of thousands of them, perhaps more than 100,000 in the dark between Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida this morning. And again, the damage assessments will begin as this very fast-moving storm, now tropical storm Nate, makes its way north through Mississippi and on up towards you guys.
All right, thank you so much, Rick. And it has been quite the hurricane season. Still another over a month to go. Rick Reichmuth has been tracking this for us all season long. Rick, what are you seeing?
Yeah, we've had 4 hurricanes make landfall in the U.S. this year, which I don't know that we've ever had 4 in a year. We've obviously had the 2 majors, also Harvey and Irma. Actually, I should say 3 majors because of Puerto Rico as well. So 3 major hurricanes, and now this 4th hurricane making landfall in Mississippi. Mississippi, which the last big storm was Katrina, obviously the monster storm, 30-foot storm surge, kind of wiped away most of that coastline, at least all of the structures right along the coast. So the stuff that has been rebuilt stronger, certainly can handle a Category 1 hurricane coming on shore as it did last night. But a lot of rain to be had from this, well inland from the storm, and I think that's what we're going to see over about the next 36 hours. It's still a very quick-moving storm. That means the rain can't linger that long, but because it's going to be interacting with a front that's coming in, it's going to wring a lot of moisture out of there. And anywhere you see those reds, that's over 4 inches of rain, and we'll see some spots likely up to around 10 inches of rain. That bullseye is going to be southern Appalachian Mountains, and I think that's why we're going to be looking at a very big threat for flooding throughout the afternoon and into the evening hours tonight, guys.
All right, thank you so much for that, Rick.
Rain, 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 rain.
What a season it has been. And we are still all reeling in from what happened last week on Monday, the horrific, the worst mass shooting in U.S. history in Las Vegas. And as it often does, it turns to the gun control debate.
And Saturday Night Live has their first show since the tragedy Sunday night into Monday. And what do? Do they focus on jokes? Do they focus on comedy, on other topics? Obviously, because you don't want to make light of an awful tragedy. No, they go political.
Immediately.
Here you go.
The investigation into the tragedy in Las Vegas this week has sparked a larger debate in America between people who want common sense gun control and people who are wrong. The guy had 47 guns. No one should own 47 of anything. If you own 47 cats, you are not a responsible pet owner. You're a crazy cat lady.
Why is it so hard to get gun control in this country? I mean, who are these delicate snowflakes that we can't just tell, no, you're not allowed to have 40 guns anymore, Earl. From now on, you can have 1 gun, max, and 6 bullets. If you can't hit what you're shooting with 6 bullets, then you don't need to be shooting at it. Learn karate or use your words. I'm sick of this narrative that Americans just love guns so much. It's not true.
So I don't think anyone disagrees with the fact that nobody needs to own 30 to 40 guns, especially the types of guns that this guy owned. I mean, we didn't even know what a buck stop was.
You have a constitutional right to own what you want, as long as you use them
right.
responsibly.
Yeah, and you know what? Just store them responsibly. Learn your gun safety and gun storage. Those are hugely important things. A lot of problems with people not doing that correctly. And the NRA has great programs to actually teach you. It's absolutely true.
And the NRA this week moved, and they said, look, we're flexible because we see this tragedy. It's time to maybe regulate these bump stops, which made this much more horrific. But what happens after that? Nancy Pelosi, the House Democratic leader, says, I hope this is a slippery slope. That's a quote from her. She said, I want us to deal with bump stops and then do a whole bunch of other gun control. Brett Stevens, I should say, in the New York Times, does an op-ed piece that says, what's this fetish? That's what he called it, a fetish over the Second Amendment. Let's just abolish it. Let's abolish the Second Amendment.
It is not a fetish. It's there for your protection against a tyrannical government. When you look at how many people governments have killed in the last 200 years, it's insane. You look at the Holocaust, you look at those situations, disarm the populace, and then the only people with guns are the government and their soldiers, and that's why it doesn't happen here. That's why we have the Second Amendment. So for us, sit here, I don't like to listen to people on Saturday Night Live
you don't
lecture
like to be
me,
lectured?
tell me
preaching.
I can only have this 1 gun with 6 bullets, and you don't need this. Don't tell me what I need. It's my Second Amendment.
You know what I want to see?
It's my right.
On an entertainment show, I want to see jokes about other topics, not about tragedies, and I want to see bringing people together.
Yeah,
and I think that's what Jason Aldean did.
People like Jason Aldean, he was on that stage in Las Vegas when the shooting happened, something that he will never forget. And he has been out speaking about, just the power of this country and coming together. And he did that last night, opening the show of SNL and talking about this unbreakable bond. Take a listen.
You can be sure that we're going to walk through. We hurt for you and we hurt with you. But you can be sure that we're going to walk through these tough times together every step of the way. Because when America is at its best, our bond and our spirit, it's unbreakable.
Powerful moment.
Can't say it better than that.
It's just perfect.
As you said, Dean, people don't want to get lectured when they're going to bed watching SNL, you know, at 11:30 at night. This was a powerful moment, and Jason Aldean is the one to do it because he was right in the thick of things. And, you know, he's one of the best country artists there is.
Yeah.
And we talk about the people that were there during the shooting. I mean, they represent this country so well. You think about Nashville and the country, the music community. I mean, they're all about our flag. They're about owning a gun. They're all about the Second Amendment.
Flag freedom, and that's it. And America. And they have my full support. Jason Aldean hit the exact right note. I thought the other guys were lecturing us and not being funny.
Yeah.
Yep. All right.
It's true.
All right, well, to some other headlines. And by the way, email us your thoughts on that, friends@foxnews.com. I want to hear what you think as well. But to some other headlines we're following, Vice President Pence visiting Las Vegas nearly a week after that deadly shooting. The VP paying his respects to the victims and honoring the heroes, assuring a packed City Hall that all Americans are Vegas strong.
We find comfort in the knowledge that we are united as one nation, as one people, with one voice. United in our grief, united in our support for those who have suffered, and united in our resolve to end such evil in our time.
The Vice President made his final stop at a memorial where the shooting happened. As you can see, they're placing a white rose on every single cross. And Kim Jong-un praising his nuclear program, calling it a powerful deterrent that guaranteed the rogue nation's sovereignty. The comments come after President Trump hinted at possibly taking military action against that country. He's tweeted this: presidents and their administrations have been talking to North Korea for 25 years. Agreements made and massive amounts of money paid hasn't worked. Agreements violated before the ink was dry, making fools of U.S. negotiators. Sorry, but only one thing will work. And he leaves it at that. And it is all hands on deck with security in full force for the Chicago Marathon happening this morning, following, of course, the recent mass shooting in Las Vegas. An additional 1,000 officers are on site near the marathon, along with others working undercover. Just minutes from now, 40,000 people are expected to participate in today's event, along with over 1 million people downtown watching it all happen.
That's a lot of people.
And Dean, why don't you handle this one?
Oh, yeah. We told you about the Nationals winning last night. Well, in the other baseball game, my Dodgers pushing the Arizona Diamondbacks to the brink, winning 8-5 to take the two-game lead.
How did they do at the end of the season there, pal?
Oh, it's going to come. We're going to get
It's kind of an epic collapse.
We're going to get, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
they're up 2-0 right now.
Dean, it's okay. Ed's just bitter because his team isn't doing very well.
By the way, I hope everyone's safe for the Chicago Marathon. As you're reading that, I'm thinking, when did Saturday Night Live do the segment about all the people who died in Chicago? All the gun violence in Chicago? When have they done that?
I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen that
one at all.
Interesting.
We'll wait for that. Good point. All right, well, this firefighter was with his girlfriend when the rain of bullets started in Las Vegas, and he ended up saving her life. He's going to share his inspiring story. You don't want to miss that. That's up next.
And President Trump may be crossing the aisle yet again to make a deal on health care.
If we made a temporary deal, I think it would be a great thing for people, but it's really up to them. Obamacare is a disaster.
Is this the only way to get a health care deal done? We're going to ask the man who actually knows. David Bossie, here to react live next.
Because ultimately we're going to have it back to the states. We're going to block land back to the states. But if we made a temporary deal, I think it would be a great thing for people. But it's really up to them. Obamacare is a disaster. The numbers are out. It's exploding like I said it would.
President Trump not giving up his vow to repeal Obamacare, even if it means trying to cut a deal with one of the biggest Democratic rivals.
The president tweeting this on Saturday. I called Chuck Schumer yesterday to see if the Dems want to do a great health care bill. Obamacare is badly broken. Big premiums. Who knows?
Here to weigh in, former deputy campaign manager for President Trump and Fox News contributor David Bossie. Good morning, David. We call you the big guy because you know what's going on there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. So, you know, the
Tell
us. The president's got to keep his base together. The base clearly wants to repeal and replace, and the Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, as you know better than anyone, have not delivered. So what does he do next?
Well, I think the president's exactly right. He is showing the American people exactly what he has to deal with. One, he's inherited this ticking time bomb that is Obamacare. The premiums are out of control. They're skyrocketing across this great nation of ours. The people across the country involved in Obamacare have no choices, and they haven't had any choices. And enrollment was down last year. Enrollment will be down again this year. And the president understands the economy here. He understands what's going on. And he's saying to Chuck Schumer, you guys were responsible for forcing this on the American people and on our economy, and now you have to participate in finding a solution. And Chuck Schumer's response is it's a no-go. And that's what the president is so smart in showing the American people. He's showing the American people, I'm willing to work with them. They are not willing to work to solve problems.
He's trying to smoke out the Democrats, because Schumer then responded, the president wanted to make another run and repeal and replace. And I told the president that's off the table. If he wants to work together and improve the existing health care system, we Democrats are open to his suggestions. A good place to start might be the Alexander Murray negotiations that would stabilize the system and lower costs. As you know, that's Lamar Alexander, Patty Murray, a bipartisan deal that hasn't gotten that much traction on the Hill.
Chuck Schumer must please his left-wing base. That is what he's doing here. He is saying Obamacare is off the table. He doesn't care that it is going to implode. He doesn't care. I'll be honest with you. I don't think Chuck Schumer cares. He is going to try to blame President Trump when Obamacare fails after 8 years. And it is President Trump inherited this mess. He's trying to fix it. Just like Obamacare's problems all around the world, whether it's our trade deals or our national security problems, President Trump has inherited a mess from Barack Obama. And that's what he found 10 months ago when he took office. And he's still dealing with it today.
Do you think the Republicans will listen? He's clearly sending a message to them of, like, if the alternative is you guys doing nothing, then this is what we're going to get. We're going to get a bill that Democrats are going to support more than you.
You know, I completely agree with that idea that the president is saying, look, we had a good opportunity to block grant this back. The Kennedy bill that was up a couple of weeks ago. Block granting it back to the states. Look, it wasn't a perfect solution, but just like in the 90s when we block granted it back to the states, the Welfare Reform Act of that year of 1996, that it was an opportunity for us to get it out of centralized Washington and send it back to the states where they are the solution. And they can do a lot more directly for their people. And I think the money going back to the states is much smarter.
Yep. That is well said. David Bossie, there's a reason we have you on in the morning. Great to have you.
He knows what's going on in the White House.
Have a good Sunday.
All right, well, it's not just the NFL anymore. The national anthem protests now hitting the ice.
What? And this firefighter was with his girlfriend when the rain, a bullet started in Las Vegas. He ended up saving her life. He's sharing his inspiring story next.
We're back with some chilling new details on the shooter in the Las Vegas massacre and the hunt for a possible motive. The mass shooting, as you know, killing 58 innocent people 1 week ago today. Will Carr joins us live in Las Vegas with the latest. Good morning, Will. What's happening?
Well, good morning, Ed. Authorities have said that when Stephen Paddock was perched on the 32nd floor of Mandalay Bay, he left a note on his nightstand. Now 60 Minutes is reporting that that note had calculations so that he could maximize his accuracy as he was firing down upon the crowd. It comes as federal authorities are putting billboards up across town asking for the community's help. And as we're learning in reports that the FBI is starting to believe that Paddock had a severe mental illness that went undiagnosed. Then there are more and more tales of heroicism. This weekend, we met an Uber driver who piled people into his car as bullets were flying and then drove them to safety.
I just rolled up. I told people to get in, and just crowds of people just jumped in. Crowds up. How many people? I don't know. Probably like maybe 12, 15 people jumped in there.
Vice President Mike Pence visited Las Vegas this weekend, and we've seen more and more memorials and tributes to the victims. Ed.
Thank you, Will Carr, live in Las Vegas. Abby and Dean.
All right, thank you, Ed. Well, Democrats aren't making it a secret. They're using the Las Vegas attack as yet another reason to push for more gun control.
they're going to say if you give them bump stock, it's going to be a slippery slope? I certainly hope so. But I don't think bump stock should be a substitute for the background check.
But do they really have the American people's best interest in mind? Did they even bother to ask anyone?
Right. We're joined right now by Kelly Culbertson, who rescued his girlfriend and saved her life during last week's vicious attack.
Thanks for being here, Kelly.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, can you walk us through what happened that night? I mean, you never think this is going to happen to you, and there you were, and your girlfriend gets hit.
Going through the night, it started out just like any of the other nights that were there for the actual festival, and it just, again, couldn't have think. Excuse me, sorry about that. I could not have ever thought that it would have happened to me at all.
Well, you're trained as a firefighter and EMT. It's wonderful that you were able to jump in there and jump into action and save this and save her. It's a very heroic thing. When we were talking about Nancy Pelosi there, when you heard her soundbite there, you were shaking your head when she said, you know, we want to switch this and make it a thing about gun control. How do you feel about that, having been through something like this?
Me personally, I don't think it's going to be something that's going to be more of a gun control thing. I think it should be more of a gun awareness thing. I understand that everyone has their own right to own guns, and me being one of those people, I'm a firm believer in being able to keep those guns. And unfortunately, it's going to keep the honest people honest, and it's going to keep getting worse and worse.
And
in my opinion,
being there that night, it didn't change your opinion on that?
No. If anything, it'd be almost helpful if we had a little bit more people that were able to even defend themselves.
I mean, you're trained for things like this. You're a volunteer firefighter, as Dean said, an EMT. Walk us through those moments when you first heard the gunshots, or what probably sounded like you was maybe fireworks. What was going through your mind, and the events that played out that night? When was your girlfriend hit? How did you respond?
Well, as a professional firefighter with the Kern County Fire Department, it's part of our training to actually be a portion of that. We do have active shooter training within our professional department, and it's just more. We did hear the firecrackers, and it was kind of going to be more of a safety precaution for all of us. Heard the first set of firecrackers, and then after the first set, the second set started going off maybe 10-ish, 15 seconds later, and then she told me she was no longer able to breathe, and then instincts came in from there, and it seemed more like a trauma situation more than anything else, and it needed to be. I needed to protect her versus other things.
How is she doing now?
She's doing very well. As of yesterday, she had 4 of her chest tubes taken out after open heart surgery. And then later today, California time, she's going to be able to, Las Vegas, Nevada time, she's going to be able to have the final chest tube taken out.
Kelly, you're probably thinking, why couldn't this have been me? Why did it have to be my girlfriend? So, you know, the conversation has quickly turned to gun control. It was talked about last night on SNL. You were a part of what happened. You were there. Your girlfriend is still recovering. Her life will likely never be the same because of this. Where should the conversation be right now? What should the focus be? Do you think it should be on gun control?
Definitely not. Definitely not. It should. I don't think it needs to be on the topic of gun control. I think it needs to be more on the unity of Las Vegas. I think it needs to be on how well everyone here has come together and how selfless everyone has been here.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kelly, she's alive because of your quick thinking right there on the spot. So well done. You are a hero, my friend.
How can we help her?
Yeah, if we want to help her, how do we help Kelly?
The biggest thing that we've been asking people is to go ahead and check out her GoFundMe page. And everyone's keep asking me, and everyone's been sending their prayers and thoughts. And the biggest thing that I think that everyone can do is please just go ahead and check out her GoFundMe page. And it's the thing that was set up by one of her friends, and I think it's going to be the best gesture for her, as well as her family.
Well, Kelly, please tell her that our thoughts and prayers are with her as well. You are a hero.
You are definitely
Thank you for being with us this morning. We're glad that you are safe, and what just a horrific event that none of us will ever forget, especially you.
Many heroes. Many heroes.
Thank you so much.
Well, President Trump firing back at late-night comics for their one-sided coverage like this.
But this is the big difference between the US and Malaysia. In Malaysia, the government bans obscene content. Here, the president tweets it.
Joe Piscopo is here with a message for his comedian friends just ahead.
Oh, I can't wait for that one.
Yes.
Plus, the president says only one thing will work to stop North Korea. What does former Education Secretary Bill Bennett think it is? He's always got a good opinion on these things. We're going to ask him. He's up next.
We're back with a Fox News alert. Hurricane Nate may have weakened to a tropical storm, but some areas still very much underwater this morning.
But the storm is still posing a threat to some states as it moves further inland.
We turn now to Chief Meteorologist Rick Reckmuth for the latest on where Nate is headed next. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning. A lot of people are going to get a lot of rain from this. Really kind of the eastern third of the country, you say. Right now, so far, we've seen some isolated spots up to about 8 inches of rain, but anywhere you see the red, that's over 4 inches of rain. Could be a lot worse if it had been a slower moving storm. The fact that it's a quicker moving storm, it's going to move out of here very quickly. Still moving at 23 miles an hour in its forward progression, but the winds are now down to 45 miles an hour. So it's had enough interaction with land. The storm has weakened considerably, and it'll continue to do so, but all that moisture is still in. That moisture has to be wrung out of this. Here's a look at the future radar, what happens throughout the day today into the North Georgia mountains, the southern Appalachians. That's where I think we're going to see our biggest threat for flooding. Some spots probably up to 10 inches of rain. Overnight tonight, it continues to move in through the central Appalachians, and then by tomorrow, moving it across much of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. So a long ways to go. Fortunately, it's moving so fast, it'll be out of here by the time we get towards Tuesday morning, guys.
Wow, fast storm. All right, thank you so much, Rick.
We got rain out here all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It started raining
No,
here.
it's supposed to rain all day.
I don't know if it's part of that system, but we'll find out.
We'll find out. Well, you have been waiting for a
We've been
guest all
talking about it.
morning.
We've been calling him the Big Kahuna because he's the
You've been calling
former
him the Big
Secretary of Education under President Reagan, former drug czar under George H.W. Bush, and a Fox News contributor. Dr. Bill Bennett, good morning to you. So much to talk about. And when you hear the president the other day talk about, he's standing with military leaders, he said this may be the calm before the storm. Then he starts tweeting about North Korea. Previous presidents, both parties, talk, give them money, no action. Is he preparing the nation for a possible military conflict with North Korea?
Well, we'll see. But first of all, what an honor this morning to be with Superman, a Superwoman, and Ed Henry.
And Ed Henry.
Big Kahuna. Give me a break. Give me a break.
I love it.
We don't know. Look, this isn't, I put it lightly, this is an unconventional president. He does things in different ways. Traditionally, conventionally, we think of presidents hauling in generals, pulling them back in, putting the reins on them. And this situation is a little bit reversed. Mattis seems to be saying, let's be calm, let's be cool, let's listen to Rex Tillerson, let Rex Tillerson work the back channels. And the president here seems to be the tough cop, the more aggressive cop. Well, I think to Donald Trump's way of thinking, he wants Kim Jong-un and the regime to think he means business. And by business, he means terrible business. So unless they negotiate, something terrible will happen. He's just reversed what has been the conventional way of doing things. I don't think it's any different, guys, than what he was saying a couple of months ago. He's just sticking to this and slightly reversing the roles. Dean will remember, as a history major at Princeton, Truman pulled MacArthur, and yanked him from his post. So he was very popular because the president, civilian control of the military. This is a more martial president and more bellicose, at least in his rhetoric. We'll see. They've got to know in the regime that this guy is not to be messed with.
Absolutely. So here was the tweet that he sent out yesterday. The president, he says, presidents and their administrations have been talking to North Korea for 25 years. Agreements made and massive amounts of money paid. Hasn't worked. Agreements violated before the ink was dry, making fools of U.S. negotiators. Sorry, but only one thing will work. And the question here, how does North Korea respond? This is a different rhetoric, a different style that he's saying that we've seen for the past 25 years. What can we expect from North Korea and maybe most importantly from China?
Yeah, you can sense the president's frustration with this, with things like health care, Obamacare, and that he's not dealing with a blank slate, a tabula rasa. But he inherits all these problems. He says these are tangles. people made a terrible mess and now I have to untangle it. So he's venting frustration there. But again, it's an interesting way of using what they call triangulation. You've got certain fixed points, like in the healthcare debate, where you've got the Republicans who aren't able to move it, Schumer and Chuck and Nancy, as they're called on the other side. So he says, well, let's find another way. Maybe I'll talk to them. This is a way of expressing his frustration and letting the Republicans know just how unhappy he is. And in that, I got to tell you, he's right. I mean, there was a long time when this should have been worked out. I think a lot of Republicans did not believe Donald Trump would be elected president, and so they didn't think the need for a plan was so essential, so immediate.
I think you're right about that. So I want to get your thoughts on late-night comedy. We've seen it sort of change in recent years, especially with President Trump being in office and giving him a lot of hits. But the ratings, has been reported, they've gone down. You don't have as many people watching these late-night shows as you did during the Leno and the Letterman days. We all remember those.
The glory days.
The glory days, as you know, Dean. A lot of it is millennials aren't watching television, but how much of it do you think is the focus and the hatred for the current president?
Well, a lot of it is that. I mean, first of all, the late-night comedians are failing the most essential test. They're not funny. And I think when you're being vituperative, as they are, that really limits the humor, because people can read that you really dislike this man. This is based not out of wit, but out of dislike. But what I'd like to see is, if they're going to get after President Trump, and they're going to get after conservative icons like our friend Sean Hannity or Bill O'Reilly, when are they going to get after someone like Harvey Weinstein, who's got people leaving left and right because of the charges against him? Now, he's one of their own. So will they speak to that? That's what I'd like to see.
I see why you call him the big kahuna. He knows everything,
He's got everything.
about everything.
Very well appointed. I want to correct one thing you guys were talking about, though. Princeton doesn't really have a football team, right?
Princeton has a good football team. He has a couple of kids that went to Princeton and were athletes as well. So
I knew that. I figured I'd tease the big kahuna a little bit.
Hey, beat Georgetown yesterday.
30
Pay
to
attention
50.
to the scores. Who cares about Alabama? Alabama, Schmamabama. Come on.
We don't want to play him, though. We don't want to play him because that would be ugly.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Dr. Bill, been always good having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Thank
you, sir.
Well done. Welcome, Dean. Good to have you.
Yeah, and how many Princeton football players go on to play for the Buffalo Bills?
Only one that went to Buffalo, but there's about 6 of us that, off my squad, I think they meant to the NFL. So we had a nice little turnout.
What a year
there.
you had.
We had a good year. Jason Garrett, who's the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
He was my quarterback, great friend. Go Cowboys this weekend, today. Maybe, I don't know if it's today.
Too bad the NFL didn't work out for you. You would have actually had a big career for yourself.
Geeking out on football right now. We got a lot of headlines.
All right, turning now to some other headlines we're following. President Trump defending his relationship with Rex Tillerson, but telling reporters there is one thing that the Secretary of State could do.
We have a very good relationship. We in a couple of things. Sometimes I'd like him to be a little bit tougher. But other than that, we have a very good relationship.
All right, you heard it right there. The president also denying an NBC News report which claimed that Tillerson was thinking about resigning. The president calling it, as he always does, fake news. And protests against the American flag now hitting the NHL. Tampa Bay Lightning forward J.T. Brown seen raising his fist on Saturday night during the national anthem. It's a powerful photo. The team supporting his actions, issuing a statement saying in part, "We respect our players and individual choices they make on social and political issues." The league has no rules concerning what players must do during the national anthem. And a new lawsuit claims Junior Mint's candy boxes don't have enough candy.
A lawsuit.
A woman in New York City claims the manufacturer intentionally tricks consumers by filling large candy boxes with too much air. That is according to some reports. Pictures from the U.S. District Court comparing their size to Milk Duds, one of my favorite candies, which apparently have more candy in their boxes. Well, the company has not yet responded to the current suit. Stay tuned for that one, though. Which one do you guys prefer?
Yeah.
Milk Duds?
Milk Duds.
No, the mint ones. Coming up, Antifa has a new target, Christopher Columbus and the Democratic Party. And we're going to talk about Saturday Night Live. Joe Piscopo, former SNL cast member. He's here live.
Come on in, Joe.